Nobody is thinking about you as much as you think. I mean, let that sink in for just a second. We're kicking off today's explainer right out of the gate with this blunt, kind of paradoxical truth. Honestly, it's worth repeating. Nobody is thinking about you as much as you think. Now, maybe your initial reaction to that is a slight sting, like, ouch. It sounds a little harsh, right? But as we're going to see together today, this realization, it's actually the gateway to the most profound relief you will ever experience.
So, welcome to The Explainer. I'm super thrilled you're tuning in because today we are breaking down a concept that absolutely shifts how we navigate our day-to-day lives. It's all about the liberation of being ignored. We're going to explore the core premise of why realizing that nobody really cares about you, or, well, at least they don't scrutinize you the way you assume they do, is literally one of the most freeing truths in life. It's wild, but being ignored is basically the ultimate permission slip.
Moving into Section 1, the Great Illusion. Okay, let's dive right into this. We really need to start by confronting the invisible cage that most people spend years, honestly sometimes entire decades, feeling completely paralyzed inside of. And it's all built on these fears that hold us back. You know the ones: the fear of embarrassment, the fear of judgment, the fear of failure, and probably the biggest one, just the fear of looking stupid. We let these fears dictate everything from our choices and our wardrobes to our careers and our relationships. But why? Well, it's because we live under this heavy, totally exhausting illusion that everyone is watching us. We hold ourselves back from the things we genuinely want to do because we're utterly convinced there's this massive audience scrutinizing our every single move. But the real liberating truth, they really aren't.
All right, Section 2, the reality check.
So, it's time to turn the mirror onto ourselves and systematically challenge this deep-seated illusion we've all been lugging around. Let's do a quick mental exercise together. How long do you actually remember someone else's awkward moment? Think about the pattern here. Think about the last time you saw someone trip on the sidewalk, or, noticed a friend wearing a really bad outfit, or watched a coworker stumble over their words in a big meeting. Be completely honest with yourself. How much time did you actually spend thinking about their mistake?
The answer is a few minutes. That's literally it. You might have noticed it, you might have even chuckled to yourself for a second, but then what happened? The incident was over, and your brain swiftly reverted right back to thinking about yourself, your own to-do list, your own lunch plans, your own worries. You completely forgot about their awkward moment almost as quickly as it happened.
And here's the kicker. If that's how your brain works, you have to realize that everyone else around you is doing the exact same thing. What everyone else is busy worrying about is their own problems, their own appearance, their own future. They are entirely too busy navigating the craziness of their own lives to obsess over yours. I mean, we are all the main characters in our own heads, right? Which means literally nobody has the extra bandwidth to be a harsh, ongoing critic of your life.
Which brings us to Section 3, the spotlight effect. Now that we intuitively understand the day-to-day reality of this, we need to ground this emotional realization in actual psychology. There's actually a verified scientific framework for why we feel this heavy burden. It's called the spotlight effect. Basically, it's the psychological phenomenon where your brain makes you feel like you're standing on a stage, constantly observed by others. It's a massive cognitive bias. Our minds quite literally trick us into feeling overly perceived. Because we're at the center of our own universe, our brain incorrectly assumes we're at the center of everyone else's universe too. It projects this massive, blinding, totally imaginary spotlight onto you, making every minor flaw or misstep feel magnified to the rest of the world.
And this brilliantly illustrates the massive disconnect we experience every single day. On one side, we have the illusion. You feel like you're on a stage. You feel exposed, watched, constantly critiqued. But the reality? Everyone is trapped in their own head. That massive audience you're so desperately afraid of, they aren't looking at the stage, they're looking down at their own scripts, frantically worrying about their own lines.
Moving to Section 4, the liberation. So once you truly internalize this psychological reality, the emotional tone of your entire life just shifts. A beautiful, incredibly powerful thing starts to happen when you finally turn that spotlight off. Here's exactly what happens when the spotlight effect shatters. You stop waiting. You post the video you've been overthinking. You wear what you want, finally. You start the business. You speak up in the meeting. You try. Do you notice the sheer momentum here? It's like a cascading avalanche of action. When you realize the audience isn't actually paying attention, that paralysis just disappears. You're suddenly free to take massive, messy, completely unfiltered action.
I just want to pause here for a second. Most people are not judging you. They're thinking about themselves. Honestly, that is profoundly beautiful because it means you are infinitely freer than you ever thought you were. That heavy burden of external expectation, it's completely self-imposed. It's a ghost. You can put it down right now, today.
And finally, section 5, time to start. So, we've broken down the illusion, we've looked at the underlying psychology, and we've felt that sense of liberation. Now let's look at how this realization practically transforms your future. See, the fear of judgment has stopped far more dreams than actual failure ever will. It's a total tragedy, really, when you think about it. The perceived, entirely imaginary judgment of people who are too busy thinking about themselves anyway has killed more ambition, more art, and more businesses than actual practical failure ever will. We literally surrender before we even begin, all to protect ourselves from a critic that doesn't even exist.
The moment you realize nobody is watching that closely, you become dangerous. And guys, I mean dangerous in the absolute best possible way. You become an unstoppable force. When you completely drop the fear of looking stupid, there is absolutely nothing left to hold you back. You become incredibly resilient, boldly decisive, and completely unbothered. You gain this unstoppable momentum simply because your actions are finally driven by what you want, not by what you think others will tolerate.
So here is the final, undeniable truth to leave you with. Nobody cares about you as much as you think. And that's exactly why you should start. Really internalize it and let it fuel you. The stage is empty, the critics are busy looking in the mirror, and the permission slip you've been waiting for your entire life is sitting right there in your hands. So what is the one thing you've been putting off because you were afraid of what people might think? What would you do today if you truly, deeply believed nobody was judging you? Answer that question and then go out and start.